Alex Garrison stood beneath the blistering midday sun, his face a mask of strained patience, sweat beading at his temples. The air did not smell of chlorine in summer, but of stale plastic, cheap dye, and the impending demolition of common sense. For 3 days, the backyard of 1629 Primrose Lane, home to Brenda Hartley, known universally on the block as Karen, had been transformed into a low-budget, high-risk film set. The centerpiece of this suburban catastrophe was a hastily assembled structure near the edge of the Hartleys' fiberglass pool. Ethan Hartley, Brenda's 17-year-old son, was building what he called the Hydro Launcher 9000, a 15-foot-tall, rickety tripod of 2x4s and rusted scaffolding intended to propel him via a giant rubber band into the pool for what he assured his perpetually recording phone was the most epic splash of the year. Alex, a civil engineer by trade and next-door neighbor by unfortunate proximity, had tried to intervene. The third and final confrontation occurred just 20 minutes prior to the scheduled launch. Alex had cornered Brenda near the property line, pointing frantically at the wooden base Ethan had anchored dangerously close to the retaining wall of the pool deck. "Brenda, please listen to me," Alex pleaded, his voice taut with professional alarm. "The wall wasn't designed for lateral stress. It's an old vinyl liner pool. Those anchor points are just concrete screws into 30-year-old deck structure. The minute Ethan puts his weight on that release mechanism, the entire system is going to torque. Best case, the structure folds. Worst case, the deck fails, and he shears the return line pipe." Brenda, a woman whose platinum blonde bob seemed impervious to the laws of gravity and logic, adjusted her oversized designer sunglasses and sipped from a thermos of something green and aggressive. She didn't turn to face him. "Alex, dear, Ethan is a creator," she said, her voice dripping with the faux calm of someone about to use the word triggering. "He is a visionary in the emerging digital space. His last video about the cat wearing Crocs got 50,000 likes. He knows what he's doing. You are being negative and, frankly, a little toxic to his process." "I'm being an engineer!" Alex exploded, scrubbing a hand over his tired eyes. "I'm telling you his process is going to land him in the ER and bankrupt you when the entire pool structure cracks. Look at that scaffolding! It's leaning 3 degrees off center already." Ethan, overhearing the raised voices from the deck, gave Alex a lazy, confident smirk, holding up a finger to indicate he was on camera, then turned back to his friend, Leo, who was nervously strapping a GoPro to Ethan's helmet. "Just relax. Mr. G," Ethan called out, his voice echoing slightly due to the microphone attached to his collar. "It's content. Risk equals reward. Besides, I reinforced the anchors with duct tape." Alex physically recoiled. "Duct tape, see? Genius," Brenda murmured, finally turning to Alex, a saccharine smile stretching across her face. "Now, if you don't mind, I need to get into a good position to film the reveal of the color bomb. It's supposed to be an immersive aquatic aesthetic experience." She swept past him, settling into a pristine white deck chair with her phone held horizontally, ready to capture her son's impending fame. Defeated and smelling the concrete dust of imminent structural failure, Alex retreated to the shaded sanctuary of his own back patio, but he couldn't look away. He had done his due diligence. The liability was no longer his. He pulled out his phone, not to film, but to text his wife, Sarah. "It's happening." He's going to break the pool. Get the insurance papers ready. The drone, Ethan's secondary camera angle, whined into the sky, hovering directly over the makeshift launch platform. Ethan, clad in neon yellow board shorts, climbed the precarious ladder. His friends cheered, sounding less supportive and more sacrificial. "All right, 5 million subscribers, we are live and ready to make history," Ethan yelled, his voice cracking slightly with adrenaline. He hooked the back of his shorts into the giant rubber tether. "This is the Hydro Launcher 9000, guaranteed to give you the splash of your life. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe." He took a deep breath, flexing his scrawny arms for the camera. Leo stood by the trigger, a cheap pulley mechanism. "Ready, Leo?" "I guess." Leo looked like he was about to vomit. "In 3, 2, now!" Leo yanked the rope. Instead of a smooth, powerful launch, the entire structure responded with the physics of a cartoon contraption. The rubber band snapped instantly. The 15-foot tripod of wood didn't collapse, it twisted. The bottom anchor points, just as Alex had predicted, failed simultaneously, ripping large chunks of the 30-year-old concrete deck with them. The Hydro Launcher 9000 didn't launch Ethan. It pitched him violently forward and down, not into the center of the pool, but onto the very edge of the deck, where his momentum carried him, not quite cleanly, into the water. But the real show was the color bomb. The violent jerk of the launch mechanism had knocked over the 5-gallon bucket of cheap, highly concentrated blue and red dye that Ethan had placed on the platform for maximum effect. The dye didn't mix in the air. It splattered. A concentrated jet of sapphire blue hit the top of the white concrete retaining wall. The neon red dye, however, poured directly into the gaping, jagged wound the anchor points had ripped out of the pool deck. Ethan surfaced, sputtering and coughing up pool water, relatively unharmed save for a deep, embarrassing scrape on his shin. He looked around, expecting to see a huge splash. What he saw was far more spectacular. The pool water, agitated by his entry, churned the dyes. The concentrated blue stain was now spreading across the white concrete like a garish bruise. But the red dye, having seeped into the fractured, porous concrete around the sheared return line, began to bloom out of the hole, not as a dye, but as a thick, viscous cloud. Due to a reaction with the old algicide residue and the pool's chemical balance, the water immediately surrounding the deck turned a blinding, impossible neon orange. It looked like the pool was actively bleeding radioactive magma. Then came the sound Alex had been waiting for, a sickening, low crack thwump. The section of the pool deck where the anchors had been ripped out finally gave way completely, pulling the attached section of the old vinyl liner down. The pool wasn't destroyed, but it was now leaking water, and the deck edge looked like a shark had taken a massive, jagged bite out of it. Brenda, who had initially let out a high-pitched, panicked shriek, now held her phone steady, her eyes wide, capturing the entire radioactive orange, structurally unsound spectacle. Ethan climbed out of the pool, defeated, soaking and dripping orange water, covered in dirt and concrete dust. "Leo, did you get that?" He groaned, clutching his shin. Leo didn't answer. He was already uploading the entire, unedited 9-second clip titled, "Pool Prank Gone Wrong." Pool bleeds acid? Alex watched from his patio as the phone in Brenda's hand buzzed, then vibrated incessantly. Within 60 seconds, the screams and sirens Alex had been waiting for were replaced by a far more insidious sound, the infectious, repetitive, meme-worthy audio clip of Ethan's pathetic, orange-drenched groan already being autoplayed on Brenda's phone. As sunset approached, the glow of the flashing ambulance lights Alex had predicted was replaced by the glow of professional camera lights and reporters. By the time Alex and Sarah finished dinner, the news helicopters were circling, and Ethan Hartley, the kid who had been warned to the point of litigation, was trending #1 globally. The Hydro Launcher fail was the new meme of the week, but not because it was dangerous, but because of the ironically beautiful neon orange structural carnage he had filmed. The caption beneath every clip was the same: "The kid who turned the pool into Vesuvius." Later that night, Alex watched a reporter standing in the street, interviewing a beaming Brenda. "It was just such a genuine moment of chaotic creativity," Brenda gushed to the camera, utterly ignoring the massive tarp covering the collapsed deck. "He's always been fearless. This proves all his doubters wrong. This is the new age of content creation, and Ethan is leading the charge." Alex leaned against his counter, the taste of professional betrayal bitter in his mouth. He was the one who was right. He had predicted the failure perfectly, but Ethan wasn't getting justice. He wasn't getting karma. He was getting famous. Then Alex saw the screenshot on the news banner, the first comment beneath the viral video. "That kid is a genius. Who cares about the pool? He just invented the next big video effect!" Alex stared at the television, an ice-cold realization settling in his gut. The failure wasn't the consequence. The fame was the consequence. And the real victims weren't the pool or Ethan's leg, but Alex's sanity. He watched Brenda hand a reporter a business card, an emergency PR firm, already on the scene, and realized this wasn't the end of the warning, it was the beginning of the war. The faint, sickly sweet smell of neon orange pool dye was Alex Garrison's unwelcome alarm clock. It clung to the morning air, permeating his carefully manicured lawn and promising an astronomical headache. He stood on his back patio, nursing a mug of coffee that did nothing to soothe his frayed nerves, staring across the property line. The Hartley pool deck was now a zone of surreal decay. The ripped concrete looked like a bomb crater had been painted with toxic sherbet. A thick, dark mud was beginning to seep out from the foundation beneath the deck, running a slow, brown stream toward the narrow drainage channel near his prize-winning azaleas. The pool was still slowly but surely draining, the water level noticeably lower than the night before. "They are literally creating a geotechnical hazard," Alex muttered to the empty backyard, the engineer in him warring with the neighbor. He had spent the early hours of the morning drafting 2 documents. The first was a meticulously detailed 12-page structural damage report, citing material failure, water ingress, and potential foundation collapse, complete with scaled diagrams and photographs. The second was a terse, legally formatted demand letter, sent via certified mail to Brenda Hartley, requiring her to place $50,000 into escrow within 72 hours to cover estimated immediate repairs. He included his professional credentials and his liability waiver documentation from the previous day. He was fighting fire with facts, and he felt a cold, calculated satisfaction. Around 9 o'clock, the parade began. First, a massive flatbed truck arrived, attempting a parallel park maneuver that involved crushing Brenda's mailbox. It was delivering a brand-new 6-foot-tall inflatable mascot, a giant, grinning figure covered in neon orange vinyl wearing a tiny hard hat. Apparently the new logo for Ethan's burgeoning brand. Then came the crew. Not a repair crew, but a camera and production team. They were young, dressed in all black, and acted with the self-important air of people handling a major celebrity. They installed massive ring light setups pointed directly at the damaged pool deck. Alex watched through his kitchen window as Ethan, now wearing clean, undyed neon board shorts and a surprisingly stylish, yet ironic, pair of safety goggles, gave a series of interviews by the leaking pool. Brenda, wearing a crisp white linen pantsuit that somehow remained immaculate amidst the chaos, walked over to Alex's property line. She wasn't smiling this time. She held a thick legal envelope, Alex's certified mail, like it was a diseased rodent. "Alex, this is harassment," she announced, loud enough for the sound guy with the boom mic to catch. Alex walked out, crossing his arms. "That is a formal demand notice based on verified structural damage, Brenda. Your negligence is causing water to saturate my foundation soil. You have a legal obligation to mitigate the damage." "Mitigate?" Brenda scoffed, letting the word hang in the air for the cameras. "My son, Ethan Hartley, is the subject of a global cultural moment. This damage, as you call it, is now an art installation. It's the backdrop for his new partnership." Alex blinked. "Partnership? With who? FEMA?" "The Danger Zone energy drink," she hissed, leaning closer. "They love the risk equals reward angle. They're calling him the king of consequences. They're paying for the entire relaunch, Alex, including a brand new customized pool next month." She paused for dramatic effect. "The only thing you are mitigating is your own loneliness, trying to drag down a minor with your toxic negativity. I'm an engineer warning you about a major liability." Alex's voice rose, the measured control finally slipping. "I sent you the documentation. Look at the data. You're going to have a 6-figure repair bill, and your insurance company will laugh you out of the office when they see a video of a homemade trebuchet causing the damage." Brenda's smile returned, cruel and sharp. "Oh, we had a very nice chat with our insurance. Apparently, since the claim is clearly an act of content creation, they are referring us to their specialty influencer liability division. They found the video delightful." She tossed Alex's 12-page report back onto his lawn like trash. "The lawyers have also reviewed your pathetic letter. They informed us that since you publicly antagonized a known minor celebrity while he was generating IP, you are now open to civil action for defamation and emotional distress." She pointed to the ground, where the dark, Dye-laced water was now pooling near the fence line. And that, Alex, is not mud. It's content residue, and you will not touch it. Defeated but furious, Alex retreated. He knew she was bluffing about the lawsuit, but the public performance, the way she weaponized their conflict for the cameras, chilled him. He spent the next 3 hours placing calls. His insurance agent was sympathetic but non-committal. His lawyer confirmed that while Alex was legally protected by his warnings, a protracted public fight with an internet celebrity would be costly, even if Alex won. Meanwhile, the media circus swelled. Ethan, now known as Vesuvius Kid online, was directing his crew. He and Leo had started a new project, erecting a massive banner that read "Danger Zone" over the collapsed section of the deck. Alex had an unavoidable commitment. A 2 p.m. video conference with the board of the prestigious engineering firm Sterling & Thorne. Landing this new multi-million-dollar municipal contract was the culmination of 15 years of work. He needed absolute focus and a professional environment. He set up his laptop in the quietest, farthest corner of his home office, facing a blank white wall. He put on his best suit jacket and meticulously checked his connection. At 1:58 p.m., the video feed stabilized, showing the 5 grave faces of the Sterling & Thorne board members. Alex smiled, ready to start his pitch. "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. I'm eager to share our proposal for the structural retrofit, and we're live, VK Squad! Check out my latest Danger Zone hack!" The sound was thunderous. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from the side of Alex's house, amplified by massive professional speakers. Ethan, on the opposite side of the fence, had climbed onto his roof and was now broadcasting a live stream. He wasn't talking about pools. He was demonstrating how to use a leaf blower and 5 cans of neon spray paint to create the ultimate rainbow content cloud. The combined volume of the leaf blower, Ethan's booming voice, and the blaring, royalty-free EDM track was physically assaulting the walls of Alex's house. On his laptop screen, the face of Mr. Sterling, the firm's CEO, hardened. "Mr. Garrison, what in God's name is that noise?" Alex's throat went dry. I'm so sorry. It's an unavoidable, temporary neighborhood disruption. I assure you, it will stop shortly. Remember to smash that like button and donate if you want to see me spray paint this entire fence," Ethan yelled, his voice now a distorted roar. The background noise was a disaster. The leaf blower sounded like a jet engine, and the low-frequency bass of the EDM was vibrating Alex's desk. "Unavoidable?" Another board member, Mrs. Vance, asked coolly. "This sounds like an active industrial disturbance right outside your window, Mr. Garrison. We are discussing a critical infrastructure project. If you cannot even secure a quiet workspace for a professional presentation, how can we trust you to manage millions of dollars in public funds?" Alex tried to raise his voice, tried to apologize, but it was useless. Ethan had just started spraying a truly obnoxious amount of neon green paint. "Gentlemen, Mrs. Vance, I can reschedule. I promise I can submit the slides." Mr. Sterling leaned forward, his face filling the screen. "Mr. Garrison, we appreciate your effort, but this lack of control over your professional environment speaks volumes about your ability to manage external variables. We will be concluding this meeting now." The screen went black. Alex stared at his own reflection in the dead laptop screen, the roar of Ethan's manufactured chaos consuming his office. The irony was so thick it was suffocating. Alex had accurately predicted structural failure, warned them, and filed the paperwork. Yet he was the one who had just faced a professional collapse, not because he was wrong, but because the kid he warned had weaponized his own stupidity. He stood up, his expensive suit jacket feeling like a straitjacket. He walked to the fence line, not with a formal letter, but with a visceral, gut-wrenching rage. He found Ethan on the roof, laughing, oblivious, covered in fluorescent paint. "You cost me a contract." "You cost me my job!" Alex screamed, unheard over the music. Ethan looked down, paused his spraying, and finally saw Alex. He gave him the same lazy, confident smirk, but this time he was holding a bottle of neon orange Gatorade. Ethan took a long sip, lowered the bottle, and for the first time, turned his microphone volume down just enough so that Alex could hear him over the fence. "Still mad about the deck, Mr. G? Look, it's not personal. It's just good content. The silence that fell upon Alex Garrison's house after the Sterling and Thorne video conference ended was far worse than the noise that preceded it. It was the heavy, suffocating silence of financial ruin. The roar of Ethan's leaf blower was gone, replaced by the faint, rhythmic whirring of the production team's generators next door, a constant, low-grade reminder of his new, forced unemployment. His wife, Sarah, found him still standing by the fence line, his hands gripping the wood so tightly his knuckles were white. "They cut the feed?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. Alex nodded slowly. "They said I lacked control over external variables." He looked over at the neon-painted fence where Ethan and his crew were now celebrating with cans of Danger Zone energy drink. He knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't just win the neighborhood fight. He took away 15 years of my life. Sarah, a pragmatic woman who usually fought his battles with spreadsheets, put a hand on his shoulder. "You're right. Facts didn't work. The law won't work fast enough. This isn't a structural integrity issue. Alex, this is a media integrity issue." She looked at the shattered concrete deck, the massive inflatable orange mascot, and the banner that read, "Danger Zone, King of Consequences." "You are the only person who predicted the consequence. Alex," she said, her eyes suddenly clear and calculating, "you're a world-class engineer. You tried to appeal to reason, but they deal in spectacle. If we fight them in court, we lose our savings. If you fight them with logic, you lose your mind. You have to fight them on their territory. You have to be better content than their chaos." Alex slowly turned the idea over in his mind. Fight content with content. It was repulsive, but strategically sound. He was right. Ethan was a fraudulent celebrity built on a predictable failure. His new persona, Vesuvius Kid, was a lie. Alex knew the truth, and in the content world, truth was a viral niche waiting to be exploited. "They're selling a false narrative of risk and reward," Alex murmured. "I'll sell the real narrative of structure and consequence." The next morning, Alex did not search for a new job. Instead, he went to the hardware store and bought a professional-grade microphone, a small tripod, and a green screen kit, the very tools of his enemy. He transformed his home office into a temporary studio, facing the green screen, which offered a welcome visual reprieve from the neon chaos outside. Sarah, recognizing the shift in his focus from rage to mission, helped him set up a new social media profile, Ab the Real Engineer. His first piece of content was a meticulously structured 3-minute video titled "Pool Prank Fail: What the Viral Video Doesn't Show You, Structural Collapse Analysis." In the video, Alex was composed and professional, yet compelling. He used the screen-in-screen feature to analyze Ethan's viral clip, freezing frames at key moments. "This is where Vesuvius Kid says, 'Risk equals reward,'" Alex explained calmly, pointing a laser at the image of the anchor plate ripping out. "What you are looking at here is not a prank. It's a classic shear failure on 30-year-old compromised concrete. The reward for this action is not an energy drink deal. It's a 6-figure foundation repair and, critically, a potentially contaminated aquifer." He then cut to his original engineering diagrams, showing the pool's water table and the fractured return line. He explained, in simple, punchy sound bites, the long-term, non-viral consequences: water ingress, foundation sinkage, and property devaluation. He ended with a clear, direct call to action, not for likes, but for accountability. Don't celebrate the risk. Demand the repair. The video was posted at 10:02 a.m. For the first hour, nothing happened. Alex felt foolish, realizing the chasm between his meticulous truth and Ethan's effortless chaos. But then the algorithm found its audience. Not the millions of teenagers, but the hundreds of thousands of skeptical, cynical adults, homeowners, insurance adjusters, engineers, and most importantly, local news producers tired of covering Vesuvius Kid. By 5 p.m., the video had 50,000 views, most of them fueled by the comments section, a war zone, between VK Squad demanding Alex be canceled as the toxic neighbor, and the structural truthers demanding Ethan be held accountable. The true escalation began when Alex received a direct message from a user named Source Sinker. The message was brief. Investigate the neon orange dye. It's not just food coloring. Check the city's industrial waste reports. Permit filings F77 Alex, now officially on the hunt, spent the evening utilizing his former firm's municipal database access, a loophole he was still authorized for until his termination was fully processed. He started pulling public records related to any local businesses dealing with industrial dyes. Meanwhile, next door, Brenda and Ethan had noticed Alex's rising social media profile. "Mom, this guy is seriously cutting into my narrative," Ethan whined, staring at his phone, surrounded by his increasingly desperate-looking production crew. "He's getting boomer viral. The comments are turning negative. They're calling me the stupid kid." Brenda, who had just finished a call with the Danger Zone marketing team, who were expressing mild concerns about the negativity, was furious. "This is calculated defamation. Ethan, he is attacking your brand integrity. We are filing the defamation lawsuit tomorrow, but first, we need to show his audience what a truly unhinged individual he is." That night, under the cover of the constant deafening EDM music they now played 24/7, Ethan executed his counterattack. Alex was in his office, focused on the obscure municipal permit filings. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then died, plunging the room into darkness. The only illumination was the eerie neon glow seeping in from the Hartley backyard. Alex grabbed a flashlight and went to his fuse box. He found the main breaker for his outdoor circuits had been forcibly tripped. But that wasn't the worst of it. The faint, dark seepage that had been running from the Hartley yard for days had finally, definitively breached his property line. The dark, oily, neon-tinged liquid was now actively bubbling up from the earth near his electrical conduit. He shone the flashlight over the liquid and recoiled. It didn't smell sweet anymore. It smelled acrid, metallic, and chemically potent. He ran back inside, returning to the permit filings with renewed urgency. He typed in the F77 code. The search yielded a document about an old industrial site near the Hartley's subdivision, a paper mill that had used specialty chemical treatments decades ago. He cross-referenced the dye information the source sinker had provided with the waste reports. His eyes scanned the fine print, the language switching from the casual toxicity of internet drama to the critical toxicity of environmental engineering. The dye, a hyper-concentrated pigment used to make the pool look radioactive, was identified as containing trace elements of a heavy metal stabilizer, now banned by the EPA, that reacted violently with standard pool algicides. He found the key line. Extreme care must be taken to prevent migration into the subsurface, as the chemical is highly corrosive to PVC and plasticizers and classified as a level 3 irritant. Ethan had not just broken the pool. His content residue was actively dissolving the old return line and, if it continued to, leach could potentially corrode the plastic, casings around underground electrical conduits, and even his house's main water supply lines. Alex stepped back from the screen, his mind calculating the real terrifying consequence. This wasn't just structural failure anymore. This was a potentially criminal environmental disaster, and it was happening on his lawn. He looked out the window at the glowing, neon orange water pooling beneath his electrical meter, and the sheer, chilling irony of the situation hit him. Ethan had made himself famous with a fake disaster, but he had accidentally triggered a real one on Alex's property. Alex grabbed his camera and, despite the lack of indoor power, walked outside, the metallic odor burning his nostrils. He focused his professional lens on the bubbling, glowing liquid on his lawn. This wasn't a warning video. This was evidence, he whispered into the microphone, his voice low and cold. The king of consequences just stepped into the danger zone, and I have the structural integrity report on his crime. The video Alex uploaded at 2:00 a.m. wasn't a professional pitch. It was a cold, hard document of reality. Titled Toxic Truth, Vesuvius Kid's content residue is a banned chemical spill. The 3-minute piece was raw, unflinching, and terrifying. Alex stood on his lawn, the flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, illuminating the viscous, neon-orange sludge bubbling where his electrical conduit entered the ground. His voice, stripped of all emotion, was the perfect contrast to the hyperdramatic chaos next door. He showed the city permit filings, cross-referencing the dye's components, the heavy metal stabilizer, with the EPA classifications. He detailed with chilling precision how the corrosive agent was eating through the old PVC pipes, contaminating the subsurface, and actively posing a threat to both properties' core utilities. "This is not content. This is a crime," Alex stated directly into the lens. "The consequence is not fame. The consequence is environmental hazard, financial liability, and potentially criminal negligence." The reaction was immediate and seismic. Alex's previous video had found an audience of homeowners. This one found an audience of regulators, journalists, and activists. Within an hour, his video was screenshotted, subtitled in 3 languages, and reposted across every platform. It hit 10,000 views faster than Ethan's original launch video. The comment section exploded, not with debate, but with unified outrage. "This is what happens when you treat reality like a filter," read the top-liked comment. At 7 a.m., the first consequence hit Brenda Hartley, not as a legal brief, but as a frantic all-caps email. The Danger Zone endorsement deal was terminated immediately, citing unforeseen brand risk in association with felony environmental hazard. They demanded the return of all advance payments, plus damages for reputational harm. Brenda, still groggy and covered in the faint residue of the spray paint counterattack, rushed outside, laptop in hand. She saw a group of local news reporters, real journalists this time, not celebrity gossip hounds, standing at the edge of the street, their lenses pointed directly at the neon seepage on Alex's lawn. "Ethan, get out here! We have a problem that can't be muted!" she shrieked. Ethan, whose follower count was still inexplicably rising, felt a genuine flicker of fear for the first time. This wasn't a scraped knee or a cracked deck. This was his money disappearing. "It's just water, Mom. We'll just block the runoff," Ethan said, grabbing 2 shovel handles. Brenda's eyes darted frantically between the laptop screen, which showed Alex's video playing on a news banner, and the bubbling, metallic-smelling spot on the ground. "The money is gone, Ethan. The contract is void. We need to make this whole thing unhappen right now." In a desperate, chaotic frenzy, Brenda and Ethan began their physical cover-up. They grabbed garbage bags, towels, and the remaining quick-drying cement they had left over from the hydro launcher construction. Brenda was on her hands and knees, trying to scoop the glowing liquid from the perimeter drain using a gardening trowel. Ethan tried to use a section of plywood to redirect the toxic flow back onto his own property, a move that only managed to splash the corrosive liquid onto his shoes and the inflatable orange mascot, which instantly began to deflate with a pathetic hiss as the chemical dissolved the vinyl. "It's eating the mascot!" Ethan yelled, his voice cracking, the content creator finally giving way to the terrified teen. "I don't care! Scoop it! If they see this, we're done!" Brenda screamed, her pristine white pantsuit now streaked with brown mud and aggressive neon orange. Her facade had completely cracked. Alex watched the pathetic scene unfold from his bedroom window. They were not mitigating the risk. They were tampering with evidence. It was agonizing to simply record, but he knew he couldn't engage physically. His power was in documentation, not confrontation. He had already sent the evidence and the location data to the city's Environmental Protection Division. He just needed to wait for the system, slow as it was, to finally execute the consequence. The EDM next door suddenly cut out. The silence returned, but this time it felt different. It was the precursor to a final, devastating sound. Around the corner of Primrose Lane, the first siren wailed. It wasn't a standard police siren, but the high-pitched, official shriek of a hazmat unit, followed by the deep, authoritarian rumble of a city public works truck. Brenda froze, the trowel halfway to the drain. She looked up, her eyes wide with a fear that went beyond social media cancellation. Ethan dropped the plywood, the corrosive liquid instantly staining his expensive sneakers a permanent, angry orange. 3 vehicles converged on the Hartley property. First a white EPA sedan, followed by a bright yellow hazmat truck, and then a uniformed officer from the local police department. The hazmat team, clad in full white protective suits, moved with professional purpose. An EPA official, a stern woman in a pressed suit, crossed the property line. She didn't look at the collapsed pool deck or the enormous danger zone banner. She walked straight to the bubbling seepage on Alex's lawn, which was now being actively documented by the news crews who had immediately followed the hazmat truck. Brenda tried to step forward, her voice reverting to her most aggressive Karen tone. "Excuse me. You can't just trespass. I demand to see a warrant. My son is a minor, and this is highly emotional." The EPA official didn't even glance at her. She spoke into a small radio clipped to her shoulder. "Confirmed. Chemical migration into adjacent property. Potential for utility damage and aquifer contamination. The site is now under environmental lockdown." She then turned to Brenda and Ethan, her expression utterly unreadable behind her safety glasses. "Brenda Hartley and Ethan Hartley," the official stated, her voice amplified by her radio, making it sound like a judgment from above. "Based on the immediate documented breach of hazardous waste protocol, the city has issued an emergency stop work order. Furthermore, due to the high toxicity and the risk of further corruption of the subsurface, the Hartley residence at 1629 Primrose Lane is deemed an active containment site and must be vacated immediately. You are not to return until the environmental review is complete." The police officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, son, you need to gather necessities only. You have 15 minutes. You are being escorted off the premises." Ethan stood paralyzed, staring at the white-suited figures descending on his yard, his neon mascot deflating at his feet. His content had become so real, so destructive, that it had taken away his home, as Brenda, defeated and silent, was ushered toward the curb. Alex watched from his window, finally seeing the true, non-monetizable, inescapable consequence of ignoring his warning. Justice wasn't viral. It was bureaucratic, heavily enforced, and wearing a hazmat suit. The ultimate, final shock, the perfect beat of irony, came from Ethan. As he passed the news cameras, now completely ignoring him in favor of the hazmat operation, he instinctively raised his phone. Not to call a lawyer, not to apologize, but to narrate his own eviction. "Guys, the EPA just raided the crib. This is insane. Full containment protocol. Don't forget to subscribe to Vesuvius Kid's new channel for the eviction vlog." He was still creating content even as his world collapsed. Alex realized the true curse was that Ethan was immune to consequence. He simply viewed it as a pivot in his business model. The battle was won, but the war for Ethan's soul was far from over.